Hey there. So, we have a video today that was specifically requested, but applies broadly to so many people that would benefit from this information. So, we're going to jump in with programming your mind using Sigils and neuro-linguistic programming, or Sigils, however you pronounce it. In this video, I'm going to be talking about ideas, methods, and techniques that will help you to master your own perception of reality, therefore, your life. Neurolinguistic programming is a series of ideas and methods and tactics that bring about techniques which will enable one to perform optimally and be more successful. It's training your brain, basically. There are 6 main pillars on which NLP rests. These 6 pillars are emotional intelligence, state, or skill level, the NLP presuppositions, which are basically a group of ideas. There's literally like hundreds of them that culminate together to increase processing speed of the human brain, essentially. 3 is the rapport you have with the change or the situation. Knowing what you want is number 4. 5 is the feedback that you'll get from your attempts at change. And 6 is the flexibility you have once you receive feedback and changes you make to further obtain success, because the first plan rarely works. So we're going to dive in with emotional IQ, skill, and state. So basically, this is how well versed you are with your emotions and how well you manage your emotions when they do arise, how comfortable you are to be with your emotions. So first, to work on emotional intelligence, you must first come to the realization that to improve any situation you are in, you have to improve your situation. Basically, if you're going to make anything better, it starts very simply in your subconscious first, projecting out into the outward world. So you must put your oxygen mask on first. When you're on a plane and it's going down, that old analogy of how we must put our oxygen masks on before we help our neighbors, it's true within all of life. You must check your internal ecology upon making any decision according to NLP. So, some questions you should ask yourself when checking your internal ecology, or how the change will affect you. You must think about what the bigger consequences of this change or decision you're trying to make are going to have on your life. What will you lose if you lose anything? Will there be new responsibilities gained from this decision that you're making? Are the cons of this decision worth it? Is the cost and the new responsibilities worth it? What will be gained from this decision? If you're trying to fix something, does it need to be fixed? Do all parts of it need to be fixed? What parts can be left? Your thoughts and goals must be strategically, positively worded. By this I mean, problem-focused thinking only creates a bigger problem. Instead of thinking how every party involved is contributing to a problem, think instead about how each party can contribute to fixing the problem. All change is subconscious first. Try rehearsing the outcomes you want over and over and over again. See where that takes you. And in this way, you will be able to be more emotionally intelligent about the situations that you want to happen and how you might feel when those situations might not go as you want them to. Now, let's get into the presuppositions of NLP. These are just some of the ones that I think are the most broad, that kind of really encase the presuppositions very well, but there's quite a lot of them. And if you Google the suppositions, the neuro-linguistic programming presuppositions, NLP presuppositions, you'll find quite a list of ideas that essentially when you embrace these ideas, they will help you to think with a broad mindset that will allow you to practice the techniques that are going to better serve you and therefore the world around you. So, the first one that I would like to underline here in this video is that response is based on experience, not reality. No one ever responds to something based on everyone else's view of that thing. They're just viewing their own subjective reality and reacting upon how they view reality, which almost is certainly not how you view reality. So, overarching this idea is that reality is completely subjective. There is no objective reality. The only objective reality that exists is the one that exists because all of our subjective realities together are pieced together like a quilt. And this is the objective reality, a bunch of little subjective realities pieced together in a quilt-like fashion. 2. Choices in life must be purposefully increased. So, this idea is the idea that you must make choices to increase choice level. More choices equals better life. More opportunities that you can pick and choose from means that you will always have an opportunity, not leaving you opportunityless, which is ideal, the ideal situation. 3. A person only ever makes a choice that is the best option for them at the time. Not to you, because reality is subjective, but to them at that point in time, a person only makes a decision because it's the best option for them. It's going to not only benefit them in their mind, but it's going to give them gain in some way. Every action is done with a purpose as well. Done not only with a purpose, but also with a plan that in their mind is the best plan to get what they want, because all any human ever wants is what they want, even if they don't even know that they're acting in that way to get that. Because sometimes it's subconscious. Amongst the most unawakened of us, unfortunately, a subconscious action done under false pretenses, but really just to get what they want, is done consistently in our world. It's very important to become aware of this. Also, along with this presupposition that a person only makes the choice that is the best one for them at the time, is that no person is wrong or broken. They only have bad habits and bad plans that are encouraging them to act in a way that is disharmonious with their environment, non-ecological. Number 4, your subconscious is your friend. It is not this secret, mysterious thing that you should hide from. It is something to be hacked, to be used as an incredible tool, and to be seen as a closet full of resources, essentially, to allow your body to run optimally, or to make your body run optimally, make your mind run optimally. It's necessary for balance. 5, communication is both reaction and intention. If a tactic fails while you're speaking to someone, you should try another tactic. Unfortunately, a big thing we see in our lives is that a person who is loud or tends to get angry all the time tends to just get angry all the time. It doesn't change much, even though their communication tactic is clearly not working. They are not taking feedback from the reaction to change their tactics, and therefore they're getting the same results out of how they communicate every time. So if you change your tactic of how you're communicating, you might gain better results with communication. Number 6, we always have or can obtain every resource we need. This meaning, no matter how horrible your situation, you always have the ability to make it better. If you're still breathing, your life is not over. Your opportunity is not over. The end. The past no longer exists once it has... It's basically an illusion. It only exists as long as you let it. And if you choose to vibrate in a new frequency, this is how you move on. This is how you get resources. Only once you see the resources available will you be able to obtain said resources. So one must look to see to obtain. Number 7. The mind and body are separate pieces of one machine. If you start acting differently, it will very indeed change the way you think, and vice versa. If you start thinking differently purposely, you will start acting differently subconsciously. They affect one another intrinsically. Number 8. Modeling success leads to excellence. Let's take this second here to look at what this means. Modeling success leads to excellence. If you model a behavior or act in a certain way that you know is inspiring or is excellent behavior, those around you will have a better example of excellence. You will be more wired habitually to be excellent more often, and the other way around. If you look at the people that you admire and model what they do to become excellent, you will therefore learn what excellence takes. You will inevitably become how you act and how you are thinking by modeling those who you admire or wish to become like. Number 9. To act is to understand. To learn a thing, you must do a thing. Try a thing over and over again. 100 tries equals 1 possibly successful attempt. Again, there's many more of these presuppositions that they're all just ideas that help you think in a certain way, and I hope that you caught on to that as I went through just those 9 of them. There are quite a few of these ideas. Now, moving on from the presuppositions, we're going to learn how to systematically get what you want. How to systematically get what you want. This is going to cover the rapport, the feedback, the knowing what you want, and the flexibility that I was talking about earlier, of the pillars of NLP. First, you must know what you want, not what you don't want, not what you want to avoid. You want to know exactly what it is that you want. If you want to be less broke, you want to say, I want more money. Secondly, once you've decided what you want and not what you want to avoid, you must decide what feedback is going to look like and how it will be measured for you once you start trying to attempt getting what you want. How does success look when it comes to this? How does it taste? How does it feel to be successful in this aspect that you are trying to change? Third, be specific. Narrow down what it is exactly that you want, when you want it, where you want it, in what context you want it from, how much you want of it. You want to be as specific as possible when setting these goals for yourself, or when creating your intention for a sigil or a sigil, however you say that. A problem, remember, can only be solved once an outcome has been decided for it. You're never going to solve any problems in your life by hoping that they just go away. You must aim at an outcome that you do want instead. Otherwise, it will just keep happening. Fourth, define any and all resources available to you to help you with your cause in this change or decision? Is it money that you need? Is it people that you need? Is it personal traits that will help you get forward? Is it objects that will help you with this endeavor? Will a role model that you have possibly help you by modeling their behavior? Could you get where you need to be by modeling someone's behavior? Or even by reaching out to someone that you admire? Could that affect your life in a way that you need it to? All possibilities here must be accounted for. Fifth, to get what you want, determine if you can maintain the outcome. How long can you maintain that outcome if you can't maintain it? And could you get help to do so? Do you need help to do so? Where could you get help to maintain the outcome? Number 6, check external ecology. Make sure that the effects of your outcome are not tumbling in a shit pile outwards. Examine the broader effects of your decision. 7th, ensure that if your outcome challenges some part of your identity, that it is not a part that is intrinsic to who you are aiming at becoming. Make sure that it is not going to hinder you or any other people around you. When inevitably you change from this decision, we're all changing all the time. It's just trying to traject how much you're going to change from this decision and whether or not that change is something you truly want. Number 8, ensure your outcomes are all cohesive. Once you start getting better at this, once you start manipulating more and more outcomes, you want to make sure that all of the things that you're manipulating are going to act in a cohesive way. Will your plate overflow? Will too much be being done at one time? Or how will you deter that from happening? Fully examine this decision. Even the smallest decisions could benefit from an examination of this magnitude. 9th, always make new action plans. Never stop planning what's next. Even if you already have a plan for what's next, things will always be shifting. So you always want to be looking at that action plan, knowing what you have to shift, and when you have to shift it, because that's going to be very important. Stagnance is the utmost enemy when it comes to change, very obviously. Above all, you must keep in mind your huge, unbelievably great goals, your hugs. You must define them for yourself. These are the overarching things that you're aiming at to complete in your lifetime, okay? Defining these for yourself is going to change many things about your life. It's going to orient you in a position for your success immediately. As soon as you define, like, by the time I'm on my deathbed, I would like to complete these things. And once these things are completed, my goals have truly been met. You have to ask what you're moving towards at all times. You have to ask why you're moving in that direction over and over again. Assess the direction you're moving in, why you're moving in that direction. Assess how you're getting in the direction that you're going, whether your mode of transportation needs to be updated, or whether or not you're needing a backup plan, which you always need a backup plan. Always get a backup plan. Always have a backup plan. Always. Always. If your backup plan's not going to work, if your regular plan is working, but your backup plan all of a sudden looks like it might not work, you might want to reassess your backup plan just in case your regular plan isn't going as well all of a sudden, because that happens. Plans on plans is how the most successful people operate. Now let's talk about one very important idea: outcome-specific thinking and outcome-oriented thinking. I guess two very important ideas that kind of coincide with one another. So you must orient toward your hugs, your huge, unbelievably great goals, and be outcome-specific whilst thinking about the smaller goals that are helping you get to your bigger goals. So you must specify smaller chunks of goals that fit underneath these unbelievably great goals, your hugs. And that is being flexible, because when you can have a larger goal in mind at all times and be constantly oriented in that direction, the little mess ups in between are going to mean much less because you're oriented in a much larger direction. So then, as long as this option is running under this goal, then you have this many options to pick out of just under this goal. But if you only have one option for every goal, you're going to find a lot less success, because of a lot less opportunities, and a lot less choices. More choices, the better. So, this is the major chunk of some of the main ideas underlying NLP. NLP is you could learn about it for hours and hours. It's a large topic in a science. It's a study. And so I hope with this information, I have given you good standing ground to start wrapping your head around some of the ideas that are going to help you start becoming successful. Because make no mistake, this may seem like common sense material, but to wrap your head around every idea and fully become able to practice those ideas, it's a whole different story. I'm telling you that now. So let's talk about sigils specifically. Let's talk about what even they have to do with neurolinguistic programming. Well, let me tell you, a sigil can be used to program your brain 100%, because it is a symbol. And if you remember correctly, your subconscious, the control center of your brain and your entire reality, speaks in symbols. And so, if you can use the right language to speak to your subconscious with your symbol, you can hack any part of your mentality. Let's get into this, shall we? A sigil, or a sigil, depending on the part of the world you live in, or part of the city that you live in, pronounced differently and much argued about, for sure. Regardless of how you pronounce it, it's a symbol created with intent to alter one's reality in some way, right? So it is both a spell and a tool that can be used in a spell, and an ingredient that can be used in a spell. And this is why you have so many different paths, because these things can be used so creatively, and every person has a different symbolism, a way that one idea feels most powerful to them, and that's how we unlock magic, or our ability innately for our very technical machines that have been designed for us to pick up and transmute energy to the physical, at least as I theorize. Stay tuned for that in my life. Sigils are very multi-dimensionally utilizable tools and spells all in their own right, powerful used just alone. To make one, there are quite a few methods, because it's all symbolism, and like I said, symbolism can vary greatly. Without getting into all of the specific ways to make sigils, because we could be talking about this for hours, and literally it takes a 2-second Google search and you'll have 6 different methods, right? You can do the grid, you can break down your sentence into symbols, you can use symbols that already exist, etc., etc., etc. But the one very important aspect in every sigil making technique is that the symbol must be in symbolic cohesion, a word that I created solely for this, a word pairing that I created solely for this video, with the subconscious of the caster. The sigil must be in symbolic cohesion with the subconscious of the caster. What the hell does this mean, Alyssa? What it means that no matter what, every part of making this sigil must vibe hard with you. So For an example, my favorite way to create a sigil in the first place is using an alphabet that I designed and breaking that down even further into a symbol, etc., etc. A big tip for this is using aesthetics that please you. I like arrow shapes and dots and curvy swirly lines. So a lot of my sigils carry those imageries because that's strong to me. So if you have a water sign, a person who's a water sign, a water sun sign, right? And wants to design a sigil for rebirth, right? They're a healer and they're a white witch. They're probably going to use a lot of positive, glowing imagery, light colors, things of that nature. But if you have someone who identifies as a pagan and a heathen and a warrior and a fighter, they're most likely to have a much darker imagery when it comes to rebirth, involving skulls and flames and all of that, which is just as accurate and all symbolize rebirth just as flowers do and glowing god energy and etc. But those two people will come out with sigils that look vastly different from each other. Now, here's hoping that you already knew basically how to make a sigil, because that's why I didn't go into it for this video. Instead, after, talking about the main aspects that are very important when making a sigil, like intent, like symbolic cohesion. Look, if you find, this is one thing that I just forgot to say earlier, if you find a sigil online and it doesn't really vibe with you that much, and you just Google searched sigil for money and reposted it and really didn't vibe with it in the first place, but you did it just because, like it said, like, you'll get $50, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to work. That's not going to work. The imagery is important. The way you symbolize this event is important, which leads me into the event of making the sigil work, okay? Because that's much, much more to talk about even than making the sigil in the first place, which, by the way, should be very symbolically cohesive with your subconscious. You should be making the sigil in either a very linear and direct fashion, depending on who you are, or a very intuitive, creative, and free-forming, free-flowing fashion. That's mainly what I mean. So to make the sigil work, the main question that you have to ask yourself is how big the change you are trying to bring about in your life, in the physical realm, and both in the psychological mind realm. How big are the changes that you're trying to bring about? So, with a bigger and bigger change, now for some people, and with a small enough change, meditating with the sigil after it is made, maybe activating it with a candle and meditating with the symbol itself, and then hiding it away, that works for some rituals and some people. But for other rituals, some other intentions, this may not work. Sometimes the sigil itself may need an activating trigger with a hand motion. Maybe it needs different breathing patterns that you determined will trigger the effects of this sigil. Maybe it needs permanent placement in a physical place that you will maybe see subconsciously, like on the tag of a favorite piece of clothing, or underneath a bracelet that you wear. Maybe it needs to be integrated into a piece of art if you're especially creative individual. Maybe you want to integrate the sigil into a piece of art that also calls upon that feeling that you're trying to bring into your life, that change. So a symbol within a symbol. So if you were to simply just paint the sigil onto a canvas, that may work as well. but someone who even finds the hiding of the sigil to be a more powerful act, if that symbolizes power to you for no one else to know what that symbol even looks like, then you might want to consider hiding it. Maybe even painting it in water underneath a painting that also brings about that feeling or that change within your subconscious and within your life. So, like I said, we'll go back to the rebirth example. If you were trying to bring about a rebirth or be able to flow more headlong into a rebirth that you're being forced into, etc., you might want to create your sigil, either paint it in water or hide it in a painting that the imagery itself suggests that of rebirth, like a phoenix or flowers rising from a skull. Who knows? Whatever symbolizes rebirth for you. And even being more specific, getting back into the NLP, you want to be as specific as possible. So how are you trying to be reborn? From what into what are you trying to be reborn? Is that stated in your sigil? Does a hand motion need to be included to specify that? So, for an example, I will tell you of a sigil that I once made to help myself release anger. This was in a time where I was struggling emotionally. I was not emotionally intelligent enough about myself and this emotion of anger to know how to handle it well or correctly. Luckily, though, I did have knowledge of sigils and a little bit of knowledge about NLP, and I looked at myself and I said exactly this. I said, I am not going to be this angry. This is not the person I want to be. Regardless of extenuating circumstances, this is not who I am. And so I rejected the idea of anger, and I created a sigil that symbolized down. I used down a lot in this because anger felt like a high revved up, overly frustrated emotion to me. So I needed something to bring it back down. I needed something to release it and bring it down. I felt like it was so high, so I needed to bring it down. So I created a sigil that represented that kind of feeling or emotion for me. I tattooed that sigil. Now, I went far, but I needed this to happen, okay? So this is what taking control of your reality is. I needed this to be strong. So I not only got it tattooed, I tattooed it myself because I have experience doing that. Don't do this at home, kids, if you have never done a fucking tattoo before. Excuse my mouth. Regardless, moving forward, went even further to incorporate a hand gesture every time I felt myself getting frustrated. And this was at first. I've noticed lasting effects after having needed to repeat this process, this hand gesture, and this very specific mindful practice of calming myself. I needed to do it very much more often in the beginning. Now I don't need to do it, and I am by nature, not by nature. I am more calm on a daily level all the time and more able to mindfully handle my frustration regardless. So it brought about the change. The spell worked. But I incorporated a hand gesture. I incorporated a breathing technique and stayed mindful about when the target action came about. I ensured to focus exactly on that opposite, what I wanted. I wanted calm. I focused on the calm in the moment of frustration over and over, whilst incorporating these strong subconscious techniques like motion, like breathing, like the symbolism, and it changed my brain. This is the science of magic. This is the science of changing your reality. It all starts within. Every ancient text will say so. It all starts within. So when you know how to change within using these very essential tactics, you know how to change all of your reality. Peace.